This mentor text lesson represents a teacher who, after analyzing student work, noticed her students were not using temporal words to link events in narrative writing. To support student learning, she decided to enhance her mini lesson with the use of a mentor text. This lesson shows how the teacher used a familiar mentor text to highlight for students how the author uses temporal words, and through her own modeled writing, how to imitate an author by adding temporal words to her own narrative writing.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please come join me here on the carpet? All right, thank you so much for sitting next to your partner. So yesterday we read Little Red Riding Hood and we talked about what to include in a narrative writing. We learned about the events that happened in Little Red Riding Hood. Would you turn to your partner, remind them of some of the events that happened in this story? Fantastic. Okay, put your eyes back on me. I heard lots of partners talking about events that happened in the beginning, middle, and end of our story. Fantastic. Well, today we're going to take another look at Little Red Riding Hood for a different reason. Let's look at our objectives together to see how we're going to use our mentor text today. Let's read our objective together. Writers will use, oh wow, we have a new word here, don't we? This word is temporal. Can everyone say temporal with me? Fantastic. Let's read our objective again. Ready? Writers will use temporal words to signal the order of events in a story. Writers will study what other writers do and revise their work to make it clearer. We have two words that I have drawn a box around. That means we're going to talk about them a little bit more. First, revise. Would you turn and tell your partner, what does it mean to revise your work? All right, put your eyes back on me. I heard lots of partners say that to revise your work means to look at it again and make any changes you think might be necessary. Fantastic. Well, what about this word, temporal words? Can you say that with me again? Temporal words. Terrific. I'm going to tell you what this word is. Temporal words are words that signal the order of events in a story. I have a chart here that lists a lot of temporal words. Let's make sure we can look at this together. Some words tell us what happens first in a story, like at the beginning, at first, one day, it all started. Then there are temporal words that tell us what happened next. For example, after, later, then, suddenly, soon. Some temporal words are going to signal to us that this is the last thing that's going to happen in a story. Those words might be finally, eventually, lastly, and from then on. So remind your partner, what does a temporal word do? You can use our objective to remind yourself. Yes, a temporal word is going to signal the order of events in a story. So what we're going to do now, we are going to read Little Red Riding Hood again, and we're going to be listening for words that tell us the order of events. Are you ready? Let's read it again. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a lively girl called Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, she was going to visit her grandma with a basket of goodies. "Be careful and don't talk to strangers," warned her mother. "I promise," she replied. Little Red skipped along the forest path. She stopped to pick some yellow flowers when suddenly a wolf appeared. "Where are you going, my dear?" he asked in his friendliest voice. "To see my grandma, who lives near the stream," she replied. The sneaky wolf said goodbye and ran to Grandma's cottage. When Grandma opened the door, he grabbed her and locked her in a closet. The wicked wolf then put on Grandma's nightgown and jumped into bed to wait for Little Red. Little Red walked inside and stared. "Grandma, what big teeth you have!" she exclaimed. "The better to eat you," snarled the wolf as he pounced on her. Little Red screamed and a woodcutter chased the wolf away. She and Grandma were safe. Can you whisper to your partner, what were some of the temporal words that you heard in that story? All right, put your eyes back on me. I'm going to read this story one more time, and as I read it this time, I want you to raise your hand when you hear a temporal word, and I'm going to highlight it in our story. Let me get my yellow highlighter out. All right, are you ready? I'm going to read it again, and you're going to raise your hand when you hear those temporal words. All right, so boys and girls, let's listen this time. Raise your hand when you hear a temporal word, and I'm going to highlight it in the text. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a lively girl called Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, she was going to... Oh, I see your hands raised. What temporal word did you hear? Yes, one morning. I'm going to highlight that because that tells us when it happened. One morning, she was going to visit her grandma with a basket of goodies. Be careful and don't talk to strangers, warned her mother. I promise, she replied. Little Red skipped along the forest path. She stopped to pick some yellow flowers when suddenly a wolf appeared. Oh, I see hands up. What temporal word did you hear? When, absolutely. I'm going to highlight that word. Where are you going, my dear? He asked in his friendliest voice. To see my grandma, who lives near the stream, she replied. The sneaky wolf said goodbye and ran to Grandma's cottage. When Grandma opened the door, oh, hands are up. What are we seeing? Yes, the word when is a temporal word. It tells us when Grandma opened the door, that's the next event that happened. When Grandma opened the door, he grabbed her and locked her in a closet. The wicked wolf then put on Grandma's nightgown and jumped into bed to wait for Little Red. I heard a temporal word there, but I didn't see anyone raise their hand. What do you think it was? Let me read it again. The wolf then put on Yes, you are correct. Then. The wolf then put on Grandma's nightgown and jumped into bed to wait for Little Red. Little Red walked inside and stared. Grandma, what big teeth you have, she exclaimed. The better to eat you, snarled the wolf as he pounced on her. I heard one just then. Did you hear it? Tell your partner. I'm going to read that sentence again. Tell your partner the temporal word. The better to eat you, snarled the wolf as he pounced on her. Oh yes, I heard the partner saying, as. Little Red screamed and a woodcutter chased the wolf away. She and Grandma were safe. Great job finding all of those temporal words in our mentor text. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, do you think our author did a good job making the order of events clear using those temporal words? I think they did too. So you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go back into my own writing from yesterday, and I'm going to see if I can make my events clearer by adding some temporal words to my writing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reread my own narrative that I wrote yesterday. So here we go. My cat interrupted my Zoom call. He walked on the piano and on my keyboard. Everyone laughed. You know what? I did not hear any temporal words in my text. So I'm going to go back now and see if I have places where I can insert them. Let's start with this first sentence. My cat interrupted my Zoom call. I did not tell my audience when this happened, did I? So it happened yesterday. So I'm going to put the word yesterday right up here in the front. And I'm going to use my upside down V. That's my mark that tells me that's where it goes. Yesterday, my cat interrupted my Zoom call. I'm going to put a slash through my M because that will remind me that I need to make it lowercase now that yesterday is starting my sentence. Yesterday, my cat interrupted my Zoom call. He walked on the piano and on my keyboard. Let's see. Well, he walked on the piano first, so I could say first, he walked on the piano and then on my keyboard. Everyone laughed. You know what? That was the last thing that happened was everyone laughed. So what if I say, finally, comma, everyone laughed. Let me reread it again and see what I think. Yesterday, my cat interrupted my Zoom call. First, he walked on the piano, comma, and then on my keyboard. Finally, everyone laughed. Yeah, I think by adding those temporal words, I've told my readers when these things happened in my story so they have a better understanding of what went on. Okay, Guess what? Now it's your turn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now it is your turn. Just as we identified some words from Little Red Riding Hood and I added to my story, you are going to reread your narrative from yesterday and see where you need to add some, what are they called? Temporal words. That's right. So let me tell you what we're getting ready to do. First, you will get your writing notebooks and your green pens, and you are going to look at your narrative story and see where you can add some temporal words. That's right. As you are doing that, I am going to be meeting with small groups of students or perhaps some individual students. After you have finished adding your temporal words, you can go to the conferring station with a buddy and you can collaborate on your revisions. Finally, after you finish all of these things, you're going to have a chance to visit some of our literacy workstations. When you are in the mentor text station, as you are looking at those mentor texts, if you happen to hear any temporal words, you can grab one of these sticky notes and add it to our chart. Do you know what I just did? I just used a bunch of temporal words to tell you the order you were going to do things. I said first, and then I said as, then I said after that, and I said finally. Temporal words are going to come in very handy, not just in our writing, but in our everyday life. Before we go, I want you to turn and tell your partner, what did we just do that set you up for success in editing your narrative writing? Turn and talk to your partner. All right, wrap up your conversations. Put your eyes back on me. Can you tell me, what did you guys talk about? What did you say? What did we do? Yes, this set of partners said we looked at Little Red Riding Hood and used it as a mentor text to see what authors do to tell us the order of events. Give me a thumbs up if you also said Little Red Riding Hood. Fantastic. What else did we do? Yes, this set of partners. That's right, you watched me go back into my narrative and edit it to add some temporal words to my writing. That's exactly what you guys are getting ready to do now. Are you ready to go? All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Off to get your writing notebooks.